You're gonna think I'm an idiot by the time I'm through, but don't judge me too harshly, okay? Here's how I caused a lockdown in a school I didn't go to. It started with a ring pop. There was this boy I used to play with all the time in middle school. His name was Evan, and I spent all my free time chasing after him. One recess, he knelt down and asked me to marry him with, you guessed it, a ring pop. We had a whole ceremony and everything. Even though he forgot about it by the next week, I never quite let go of him. As we grew, I always got the closest seat to him. I ate lunch at his table. I even got his number, but I was always too afraid to actually text him. Everyone knew I was practically in love with him, except for him. Call me lame or obsessive, but I even still had the plastic ring of that ring pop when we got to 8th grade. That's when I felt like my whole world fell apart. He didn't show up for class. At first, I tried to wave it off. I figured it was no big deal, but his name wasn't on the roll call. As the day went on, it got worse and worse, and I realized not one teacher called his name. I eventually found his best friend, a short dude who always wore red pants and superhero t-shirts. I managed to say, "Hey, do you know where Evan is? I haven't seen him all day today." His friend stared at me in surprise. "You haven't heard? Evan moved." "What? Where?" "Halfway across the country," his friend said. Halfway across the country was putting it gently. He might as well have been halfway across the world. I even looked up his school. It was a boarding school for only boys. I was heartbroken. Some people might say it's dramatic or that 13-year-old girls can't feel that strongly about someone, but I remember that the next month felt gray. I was tired all the time. "You can't do this to yourself," Rebecca, my best friend, said one day. "You know what? We're gonna have a movie night tonight at your place. I'll bring the movies. You bring the food." At first, I wanted nothing more than to sink in my bed and not exist. Not that I wasn't grateful. Really, Rebecca was and still is the best friend I could ever ask for. But I didn't want to exist. Then we started watching She's the Man. An idea started spinning in my head. "That's what I'm gonna do," I said. "What? Do what?" Rebecca asked. "I'm gonna sneak into his school. As a boy," I said. Rebecca laughed. "It's a lot harder than in a movie, Alex. No one is gonna believe you're a man." "No," I agreed. "But they'll believe I'm a pubescent boy." So I got to work. First, I looked into the school. It turned out that there were 2 schools. One was all boys, and the other was for girls. They were set up so that you lived at the school, which made my life so much easier. The cost was not so much easier. My parents were filthy, stinking middle class, and the number on the screen was big enough to make me wince. However, their site showed that they accepted scholarships and that sports players could get discounts. I didn't play a single sport, so I thought I was out until I realized they had a bowling team. I was saved. Then it was researching binders for my chest and short haircuts and makeup that would make my face look more masculine. I had no intention of a single person discovering my secret, let alone losing my spot. But that was only a few months. I spent the whole year working harder in all of my classes than ever before. After my not-so-stellar grades in the first month, I managed to get everything on the up and up. Once I qualified for the scholarship, I made sure to get my transcripts and make them read male. I have never been more terrified than when I waited to find out if I had been accepted or not. Months of waiting seemed to take years, but finally a big letter arrived in the mail. "What's this?" my mother asked me when she handed it to me. I didn't answer her at first. My heart was pounding, but then I cut open the letter. Accepted. I'd like to say I remember the next few moments, but I was so excited that it eclipsed everything else. And when faced with the scholarships plus my begging, my parents agreed. They filled out the forms and mailed them in without once realizing it was for an all-boys boarding school. I only showed them the site for the female school. At the time, I thought I was really clever. I hugged Rebecca and my parents goodbye, and I flew across the country to reach the boarding school. I managed to get an early flight, so it gave me time to get a truly short haircut and change. I thought I looked like a guy, but my paranoia was beyond me. When I walked into the dorms, my heart was pounding. Every person who looked at me was a threat. They know, I kept thinking. Then I got to my room, and true horror hit me. There were bunk beds, 2 dressers, 2 desks, 2 chairs. I had a roommate. Teddy was a bigger guy with a truly impressive afro, or it was anytime he picked it out. Normally, he just rolled out of bed and ignored his curls. I wanted to relate, but every morning I was in the bathroom way before he woke up to take a shower, to do my makeup, and to tie down my binder. If I missed even one morning, I was sure that Teddy would see right through me, and that would be the end. I was terrified. It was all worth it, though, because I was in every single class with Evan, though he didn't make the cut for the bowling team. I even asked him one day if he needed any help with his math homework. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Then, Teddy asked me one day if I was gay. We were sitting at his computer playing a game, and after he totally obliterated me, he turned and said, "You're into guys, huh?" I didn't have words. I was so surprised I started stuttering. And he said, Hey, I don't judge." "It's not like that," I said. "You sure?" Teddy asked. "I'm sure," I said. "Okay," Teddy said really slow. "But it's like you completely avoid other guys, except me, but that doesn't count. Then you see Evan and you're blushing." "I am not!" "R2. Am not!" "Whatever, man," Teddy grinned. He started up a new game, but I know. He didn't know. He didn't even know he didn't know. I should have just left it, but I was so freaked out afterwards that my cover would have been blown that I called Rebecca when Teddy went to get snacks and said those magic words. He almost realized I was a girl. The door slammed open. "You're a girl?" Teddy cried. Our junk food was all over the floor, but I didn't care. I dragged him inside and slammed the door. "Shh." Barely any quieter, Teddy said, "You're a girl?" "Yes, okay. Now will you keep it down?" I asked. "I think I'd better go," Rebecca said over the phone. "Good luck, Alex." Teddy was practically catatonic for the next 3 days. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, terrified that he'd tell and my name would come on over the loudspeakers. I'd be a laughingstock, and worse, that would be the only thing Evan would remember about me, that I was the girl who was expelled from his all-male boarding school. But then, Teddy relaxed. He started talking to me again, and everything seemed like it was fine. I even started getting to sleep in. Then, parent-teacher conferences happened. I wasn't worried. After all, my parents were halfway across the country. I figured I'd get a teacher to call them or send a letter, and I'd be fine. Well, they flew in. Not only did they fly in, but they drove straight to my sister's school. Literally. They went to the girls' boarding school I said I was enrolling in. They walked into the campus and asked the front desk lady to help them locate my classes. I'm glad I wasn't there to see their faces when they discovered that not only had I not enrolled, but that I never arrived in the first place. Suddenly, I was a missing child and both schools were put in lockdown. I was in the dorm when the lockdown started, and Teddy came running in like a shot. "What's going on?" I asked. Teddy shook his head. "I don't know. No one would tell me anything. They just sent me back here." Before I could say anything, we heard a knock down the hall. Both of us crowded by the door, listening as an adult male voice said, "Do you know this girl? Her name is Alex Vanderhyde." "Oh my God, that's you," Teddy whispered. "I know," I snapped. "What are you gonna do?" he asked at the same moment a knock came at our door. Teddy looked panicked, but I smiled at him. Face the music, I guess. And I opened the door. The police officer seemed both relieved and very amused when I came clean. My parents in the school were much less so. My parents were mortified. I was expelled and banned from campus for the stunt I pulled, but at least no charges were pressed. But I was grounded for a year. However, I got to see Evan one last time before I had to get on a plane to my eternal grounding. I had pulled out the plastic ring pop and handed it to him. "I really wanted to get to know you, but I guess I wasn't brave enough." He took the ring. "You're telling me that you disguised yourself as a boy, tricked your way into an all-boys boarding school, and lied to your parents to follow me thousands of miles from home?" Yeah, I managed. "That's so creepy, Alex," Evan said. "Why didn't you just text me like a normal person?" "I'm sorry," I remember saying. "I'm sorry. I just really like you." Sorry," Evan said. "But I'm not." You're kind of stalkerish, you know? That's just crazy. I'm sure you're great, but we just don't know each other. I'm sorry, Alex. He pressed the ring back into my hand and practically ran away. At the time, I was heartbroken once again. I didn't talk to anyone for months. If I heard my name in school, I tried to sink into my seat. The news broke my story in my hometown, and suddenly I was followed by stares everywhere. Not even Rebecca's movie nights and Teddy's horrible puns he'd always text could make me smile. It was horrifying. But now, I'm grateful. Evan was right. What I did was wrong. It was stalker behavior, and I'm honestly embarrassed that I ever did it. But even so, I'm glad that I experienced that. After all, now I'm a valedictorian about to graduate and go to college. I was way ahead of the game figuring out how to find scholarships, and even better, Teddy and I are approaching our 1-year anniversary. I tried to text Evan to say thank you and I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure he blocked my number. Honestly, that's probably for the best.